Right, here we go. So, first, welcome, DevFest, Cape Town. It's a pleasure for me as well to be here to speak. I've already been here in May, and I love the town. It's really great having a view on Table Mountain, as well as hanging out on Long Street. So, oh, seriously, we're at the moment staying in one of the hotels in Long Street. So last night was really quite a show with all the music around. However, let's talk a little bit about Gemini. And one of my first questions usually is about who is aware of Gemini, who's using Gemini in the audience. There we have a few people. All right, good. So I hope that I can give you some hints and tips and tricks about how to leverage Gemini for your daily driver. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach me on social medias. You can scan the QR code, also then Q&A. I think because of the time that we are now scheduling a little bit, that we are ready for lunch break at noon. I suggest that you then come up later on after the session, maybe then during the lunch break to have a couple of questions and answers that we can hang out. All right, pair programming. Let's talk first about what is pair programming in general. The official definition is that it's a technique with two programmers work together, allowing them to just discuss ideas and improve each other's work. Simple things, everything is fine, everything is smooth. However, usually it's also a situation that when you do pair programming is that you combine a more experienced developer, a senior, together with a starter, a junior, so that you also have this information, this transfer of information. So meaning on the one side, we have knowledge sharing. You can reflect on your work, you get direct feedback. Two pairs of eyes see better than a single version. Also, it's a situation that when you work together on a piece of code, you share the ownership, not in terms of intellectual property, but in terms of responsibility towards the application and the company. On the other side, you have two modes of thinking, because your experience, your horizon goes to a certain distance, whereas if you're in a pair, you can go further and discuss things, and there might be other ways of experience that can be shared. And the other advantage as well with pair programming is that the so-called WIP, the work in progress, activities are kept low. Because as you're working together on active task, you finish the task probably in the same amount of time, maybe even quicker than if you would work alone on it. So meaning that overall, you produce a higher quality in your code base based on the fact that it is already reviewed on the fly and that you have more ideas, other ways of thinking, and you have a critical, let's say, approach to what is needed. So meaning there's this team flow that is happening. Now, in regards to pair programming, P-A-I-R, it's actually exactly the same, except that you replace the second human coder with an AI assistant. You get all the same benefits that I just mentioned, plus the 24/7 availability. Because if you're like me, I like to have some great ideas in the evening when I'm having my shower. And it's like the light bulb effect, like bing, oh yeah, I need to do this kind of problem in that way. And now it's a little bit difficult to say it like 8:30, 9 o'clock, after dinner time, to ring up my colleague and say, hey, what do you think about that approach? Most probably he will tell me, Joki, are you out of your mind calling me at this time? It's after office hours. So with an AI assistant like Gemini, you can do it at any time, even if you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, like, oh, I had a nightmare vision about something for a solution of your problem. You can throw it at Gemini and say, hey, I would like to go this way. What do you think? And it's a really nice exchange about how Gemini can assist you in a way to review your own thoughts and maybe even give you bullet points to alternatives. So talking about Gemini, it's a situation that There's not one Gemini. Unfortunately, Google has a long-term standing issue regarding naming things, and it can be confusing. No fingers pointed. It's not, I mean, Google is not the only company that has this issue, because naming things in IT is one of the hardest activities. Yeah, whether it's your variable, whether it's your method or your object, naming is not easy. So now, when we talk about Gemini, I would like to focus actually on two major things. First of all is the Google AI Studio, which is the public available website that you can reach under ai.google.dev. It's free to use. The only thing is that you're gonna have the web interface with its offerings and its limitations. On the other side, it is public area, so meaning that it is exposed. So if you have to work with some kind of sensitive information, or if you want to have something that's private to the company, or that you need to have within your application in production, you would then actually consider Vertex AI Studio, which is on Google Cloud. So there is a situation that it's in your personal or in your company's realm and more secure compared to what you offer in Google AI Studio. Last but not least, it's also that when we are developing, we have our standard IDE. Yeah, over the range, there might be, like we already seen, IntelliJ, Android Studio. On my side, I like to use Visual Studio or JetBrains Rider. But I hope that the numbers of attendees here are using Visual Studio Code. Anyone not using Visual Studio Code? Oh, okay, a few. So I assume everybody's using it. And that's why it's going to be our main focus here on this side. On the other side is also that Gemini is not only available as a website in regards to Google AI Studio or Vertex AI Studio, it is also provided as an API, meaning that you can easily take the capabilities and features of Gemini and integrate it into your own code base. On the one side, there's a situation that Google provides SDKs for a couple of programming environments, namely Python, Go language, JavaScript includes the Node.js side. Then there's also the package for Android, which means it's a Java package. And I think there's also the package for Swift. However, if you're like me, a .NET developer, then you need to reach out to a community-based SDK. There's a Gemini SDK or the SDK for .NET. If you're interested in that, you can talk to me, because actually I created it in a few weeks of time back in March. So, and it's working with Gemini AI, the public one, as well as the one on Google Cloud, the Vertex AI. And last but not least, I also like to stress out that there had been a Gemini product previously called Bart, which is actually the Gemini chat application, which also gives you the ability that you can exchange ideas. It's a public website, and it also has the capabilities to generate images compared to Google AI Studio. Right. Now, typical use cases. First of all, is that with the situation of using Gemini as a code assistant, is that typical case would be explanation and answer system. So you have a piece of code, and it's like everybody, yeah, like everybody that is programming, not well documented, because who likes to write documentation? Me not. I like to generate it. And that's actually where I use Gemini for it. On the other side, having a piece of code, it's like, what does this code do? So meaning I can just highlight the code and ask Gemini, hey, explain this code to me. What's the purpose? What am I missing here? What am I looking at? On the other side, there's the ability that you can use your code base and say, okay, I need a function for a specific requirement, and Gemini can actually then generate the code for you. Don't take it for granted. It's a draft. It's like a jump start, like bootstrapping. Oh, share my screen again. Okay, technical issues. Okay, we are sharing. Meaning that you get a boilerplate where literally like roughly 80% of the code is generated. You don't have to type it. Saves you time and lets you focus on the problem. So meaning that you would only review the code that has been generated, fill in the bits and pieces that you don't like or that are still missing, and you're good to go. Meaning this is a huge time saver. On the other side, everybody needs to have tests. Anyone writing unit tests? Who writes tests? Anyone that does test-driven development here? Ooh, okay. I see. Well, out of own experience, it's usually that you have a code base and there's a lot of code and you can like, where are the tests? Where are the tests? And before you start changing, it's actually interesting to have at least a few of tests available. So in case that you have a code base that is missing tests, feel free to use Gemini in order then to generate those tests. And it works beautifully because you can really specify which class that you want to have unit tests for. You can specify which testing framework you need for, and you can go for that. So again, it takes a lot of the, let's say, less interesting parts away from you in order to make you more productive. And last but not least, it's also a situation that, hey, that's the code. How can I improve it? Yeah, Gemini can give you suggestions. And it's even going that way that when we have a look, for example, on repositories on GitHub, that you can feed it open issues and it will take the code base and provide you solutions on how to fix issues that have been reported by other people. To a certain extreme is also based on the fact that Gemini is multimodal, which I'm going to be then in a few minutes. It's also that you can actually feed it a video. Somebody recorded an issue, let's say on a website, and Gemini has the capability to analyze the video, check it against your code base, and come up with a solution about how to fix your problem. So, I mean, this is really kind of time saving. Now, as I'm speaking to you, that's the same way I would like to speak to Gemini, which means that English is the new programming language. Yeah? So in this case, there are certain things like generating data, generating code, generating SQL queries if you have an existing database, because you don't want to bother your database admin to give you a nice query. If you're working with regular expressions, it's always difficult. Who likes to do regex? Anyone talk to me? Yeah, yes, of course. So regex is pretty powerful. However, creating regex expression as well as reading regex expressions is a complete different story. And out of this, Gemini can help you in order then to say, okay, regex expression from somebody else, it actually reads it, explains it to you what it does with the grouping and the testing. And on the other side, if you have certain things that you want to do, you don't need to work out the syntax for regex. You can just use Gemini in order to help you with that. All right, enough talk. Show me the code. Let's try this. So it seems that my screen sharing is not picking it up. Fix that. All right. Good. Enlarging this a little bit. Unfortunately, the UI here is not. Oh yeah, now it's retractable. Okay. So a couple of easy things. We are instructing Gemini here, and actually I'm using Google AI Studio, which is publicly available. As I mentioned, it's on ai.google.dev. You can then start with a prompt. You would here, for example, specify your system instructions about giving Gemini the context about what field that you're working in. Here in this case, I specify that you are senior Gemini, you are a senior software developer from Jamaica. Yeah. Okay. I know we are in Cape Town. Sorry for that. And I'm still asking that, hey, all your answers need to come with a good vibe. And of course, you have experience in Go language. Well, actually, I'm going to change that because I'm more familiar with C#. So C# is okay with everybody? I'm not getting stoned? All right. So meaning that now we have these system instructions available. We also then would decide which kind of model we would like to go for. Right now, the recommendation is that you go with 1.5 Flash. And as you've seen earlier with Marvin, there's also the Gemma models, the open source models available. Right now, I would suggest that you go with one of the Gemini Flash models. Temperature, you leave it as it is. It's about the level of creativity. We are giving it a little bit of free ranging. That's all good. And the rest of the settings we can ignore at the moment. So meaning now, simple fact, write a method that gives us the prime number up to a certain limit. So we post this in, and I hope, crossing fingers, demo goals are working. And we're going back to the bottom. So now let's have a look. All right, C# method to find prime numbers. It gives us the information that we use the sieve as of Eratosthenes, and which is in general efficient. And then we see, okay, there is the C# code in order to get this kind of information. Who would have known this, how to find prime numbers? Frankly, everybody in the room. Because now with Gemini, you can generate it within seconds. Yeah, so no problem about that. And last but not least, it also gives you the explanation what is happening. So if your boss is coming or your supervisor is coming up, hey, what kind of code did you write here? Oh, yeah, hang on, I have the explanation. Yeah, so you're appearing smart within the team and to your team leads. Yeah, so you know what you're doing. Big wink. On the other side is also a situation that I'm about to say, hey, that's some code to generate. It's also a situation about let's generate some data. Yeah? One of the prompts that I'm usually using is something like get me a list of African countries with their capital and population. Yeah, we hit the enter button, it generates it, takes a few seconds, which also means if you're playing like, some social games in the afternoon or in the evening, you're the smart one because you can easily generate the answer out of that. So looking at this list, let's hang on, if you find South Africa, it's even alphabetically sorted. Oh, South Africa, 3 capitals. That sounds about right. Yeah. And approximately a little bit less than 60 million inhabitants. Sounds about right? Well, okay, cool. All right, now we have this list. However, it's not good, because we can't use it in a coding fashion. So now we say, okay, well, I need that in JSON format, and we hit again Control Enter. You see as well, takes a few seconds. And here in this chat, as well as when you use the API, you can activate history. So whatever you enter, it knows what the previous prompts were. And now you get the same list that we just saw that you can verify. Oh yeah, that looks good. Now I need it as data in JSON format. Fine. I can simply copy and paste it, use it in my application. That could be interesting for a drop-down in your web application. I don't know what you want to use it for. However, you might also say, oh, that's pretty cool that I have now this in JSON, but I want to store this in MySQL. Give me the insert statements. Don't worry about type errors, because Gemini is quite good at autocorrecting or understanding. All right, so now it actually then gives us the information how to get this into MySQL. And it tells us, okay, for Python, we can use it with a MySQL connector. It's a bit weird because we said you're a C# developer, but okay. What about C#? Let's having a look at the result. We're going to get here the way to select this, but it also gives us the information about how to insert information. Yeah. Okay, in C#, we can use then the MySQL connector, and we get the code about how to go forward with it, with the settings, inserting the countries, and actually it reads the JSON file that we just produced. Yeah? So again, we're looking super smart. In a few couples of seconds, we generated code that we can directly use. Yeah? Let's see if we have Jamaica vibes at the end. Well, it doesn't give me the Jamaica vibes, because usually it would be something like, oh yeah, enjoy peaceful life and something like that. All right. Now, as a backup, I had the slides in case that internet is working. List of countries, selecting it, getting in the insert statement. However, this is another example. Everything needs to be a container nowadays. I don't, I'm a software developer. I don't know about Docker or Docker containers. So I can ask Gemini and say, hey, that's my application. Write me a Docker script. And it can generate this and get it out of the way. So even then, within a couple of seconds, I appear to be a Docker professional using Gemini. Yeah. So you can go different mileage in order to go forward. In this case, it's showing us the situation regarding Python, but you can use any code base and say, okay, I need a C#-based container in order to deploy my functionality. That's all very legit. Good. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, multimodality. It means that so far we entered text into Gemini. However, you can also enter images, which is pretty cool because you might have, your designers coming up with a wireframe. Maybe, I don't know, on Canva, on Figma, or on Miro, the platform. So which means that you can actually and feed it to Gemini in order to get code generated. On the other side, you can have an audio file. Let's say you have your daily stand-up and you have your recording from the daily stand-up, and it's like, hey, give me the minutes out of that about what are the tasks, what is the progress, what needs to be done. Or you have a meeting with the client about certain requirements. If you record it, it actually can then generate information out of that. And last but not least, as I mentioned, again with video, if you have a problem in your application, you can screen record it, feed it to Gemini. Together with the code base, it can come up with solutions about how to improve your source code. Very neat. So, yeah, that would be one of, let's say, 2 examples for these kind of approaches. So if you say, we take the right one, it looks like we can start the application. It comes up with kind of a login information. It gives me a list of data. So are there any mobile developers here in the room? 2 at least. Free, okay. So, quick question. If you have a wireframe like this, just for the UI, and you get the task from your team, or it's part of your sprint, create those UIs in, I don't know, what are you using, Flutter? Yeah, but programming-wise, or in Flutter. So the question would be now, here's the wireframe, it's there, somebody else designed it. Your task is now to create them in Flutter. How much time would this take you? Okay. Yeah, you can put focus 100% of your time on that to generate those 6 screens. 2 hours. You're using Gemini. Right? All right, all right. There was another mobile developer. How much time would it take you? A day? Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking about. So right now is actually, if you take the wireframe and you feed it into Gemini, within a minute, a little bit less, you get the code generated that you need for your application. And I need to check if I find the right, I can show you at the end, if I write the right images. And the fun thing is also that you take the same image and you can specify that, hey, I need to have the code for Flutter. No, sorry, wrong project. I need the code for Kotlin multi-platform. It generates the code. Or in my case, hey, I need to use this for that for .NET MAUI. I get the C# code with the XAML UI definitions, even with code behind, to simulate code interactions about what happens if I click on that button, what happens if I click on that UI control. Yeah, Gemini can help you to create all of this, inclusive the tests. Yeah. All right. Now it's freezing. See? Yeah, screen recording we mentioned. However, it's not a perfect world, and issues can happen. Gemini is an online platform that you communicate remotely with. There could be an issue with your connection, but there could also be an overuse on Gemini. This is when you get this mysterious HTTP 429 as a response. It simply says, Gemini has been used too much. Of course, Google is always increasing the resources, so this error should reduce. But again, if it happens, step out, step away from the machine, have a coffee break, have a restroom break. 5 minutes later, you try exactly the same, and usually it works. Yeah? However, again, it's saving you a lot of time in order to get your program done. And for me, especially, I have to say that since I'm using Gemini, and that's already since August last year, because I've been in the Trusted Tester program, so which is like the better program, is that I shifted my time actually onto the creative parts. I have the focus on actually think about the problems, focus on the solution, and come up with creative solutions, and not spending my time on the boring, grinding parts. I don't want to write unit tests. I have to, okay, but 80% I can save on the typing based on the fact that I can generate them. And then I review them, adjust them, and I get my 100% in maybe a sixth of the time than what I would need to do. Same is the situation about documenting things. Inline comments, as well as then, let's say you have to document something on a wiki page or something like that. Or in my case, for this SDK for .NET, the README that you get on GitHub is 75% Gemini generated. Not only the functionality, but also the samples that about how to use the SDK. I didn't write that. Let Gemini do that. So Gemini is good at this kind of tasks. And last but not least, Code Assist is also available as a team effort. So meaning that in combination with Google Cloud Platform, you can set up a team environment so that you can provide the code base to your whole team. So meaning that onboarding of junior developers or developers that are coming in for joining from another team can be faster into it. You can give the model grounding and tuning, meaning that whatever it generates is then actually closer to your code base and less something invented / hallucinations. And it allows you then as well to move your team forward in regards to your solutions. So now you would say, okay, that all sounds great, but there's a catch. My internet connection is not that wow. You got this problem? You have stable, good internet connection? No? I know that you have load shedding. So it has improved? All right, very good, very good. So meaning that how am I going to use this if I'm offline? Well, even for that is a solution, because there's an open source runner that you can use. It's called Ollama. Ollama is something that you can run locally on your machine, on your laptop. It can take the open source models from Google, which means in this case CodeGemma, and then you can run it into your local environment. On the one side, you can run it in a prompt. On the other side, if you're using Visual Studio Code, there's an extension called CodeGDP. And with CodeGDP, you can also integrate then Ollama as a runner into your Visual Studio Code. So that is more or less the end of my presentation. However, I would like to show you quickly how this looks like then in Visual Studio Code. And I'm just taking a project. Example sounds good. So here. So on the one side, as I mentioned, in Visual Studio Code, you get an extension. There's Gemini code extension. Yes, everything is popping up. So you would install that. You need your API key that you get on the Google AI Studio, and then you can start working with it. On the other side, if you want to use it in your own applications, it's a similar approach. You would take one of the SDKs, including my one for .NET. Again, it works on the situation that you need to have your API key. You add the reference, like here in line 2. You specify your API key, like literally here in line 24. You specify which model that you want to interact with. And then you write your application as you need it. And this is the magic line, generate content, because here you would actually then send your request to the Gemini API, and you get the response back that you can then write out here, like in a console application. Yeah? And this works Python-based, JavaScript-based, Node-based, for Java in your Android applications, or for Swift, as well as .NET. And to wrap this up, I hope I'm in the right folder. See. Copy. So it takes a moment. Crossing fingers that the demo goes on with me. As a good chef, I would have normally then just stepped to the baker, to the oven, and pulled something out like, I have already prepared something for you. But I'm going to be a little bit of a risk taker today, and I'll try it live. But it seems that I might not be happy or might not be lucky here. Hmm. Oh, it was still building. Okay. Let's see. Hmm. Well, this can run in the background. So right now, I hope that you got some ideas about how to see how Gemini can actually help you in your daily activities. So I try 8. How you can take away the time-consuming, boring parts from your projects in order then to focus on the problem-solving parts, about how your creativity more in order then to bring up solutions. And of course, use Gemini for unit testing, for idea exchange, for documentation, because only a project is only complete with tests and documentation. Otherwise, it's just a prototype. And this is still taking too much time. And I would say we let this run here in the background. Time is ready for your lunch break. I hope that you're okay with those 5 minutes that I took away. Otherwise, I think it's upstairs. And if you want to have a couple of questions answered, feel free, come reach out to me, talk to me while I'm around. On the other side, if you want to get in touch with me online, you can find me on my blog. You can find me on social media platforms like X, Mastodon, Blue Sky, as well as LinkedIn. And with that, thank you so much, and GDG Mauritius GDG Cape Town for this opportunity here.